As a veteran recounting tales from the depths of the Montauk Project, I can't help but feel the weight of the secrets buried beneath the serene facade of Long Island's Montauk Point. It's a story that's haunted me since the moment I stumbled upon the truth, deep beneath the Earth's surface. The underground base beneath Camp Hero is not just a military installation. It's a nexus of intergalactic intrigue, with occupants ranging from Chiakars of Alpha Draco to the enigmatic Greys of Rigel Orion. But it's not just extraterrestrial beings that call Montauk home. Black Ops operatives, remnants of the Nazi regime, and agents from German intelligence. Thule Society also ply their trade within its shadowy depths. The mind control experiments conducted here are the stuff of nightmares, drawing on the experiences of thousands of unwitting abductees who've been programmed to serve the New World Order as sleeper agents. The Montauk, Alsace-Lorraine. Time Archives, MALT, house the twisted records of these abductions, tucked away beneath layers of concrete and steel. But it's not just the mind that's manipulated at Montauk. The very fabric of space-time itself is bent to the will of those who dwell within its depths. Time portals, hidden beneath the surface of the nearby town of Montauk and scattered throughout the surrounding landscape, offer glimpses into other dimensions and distant futures. Reports of superhuman experimentation and human-alien hybridizations send shivers down my spine, as whispers of Nazi involvement and collaboration with extraterrestrial entities circulate among those in the know. It's a tale of horror and intrigue, where the line between science fiction and reality blurs into nothingness. But amidst the darkness, there are glimmers of hope. Resistance movements and whistleblowers emerge, shining a light on the atrocities committed in the name of scientific advancement. As veterans, we're no strangers to facing impossible odds, and the fight against the malevolent forces behind the Montauk Project is no exception. We press forward, driven by a sense of duty and a commitment to uncovering the truth, no matter the cost. The revelations of Montauk may chill the soul, but they also ignite a fire within us, a determination to stand against tyranny and oppression wherever it may lurk. The battle ahead may be daunting, but as veterans, we've faced our fair share of challenges. With courage in our hearts and the truth on our side, we march forward, ready to confront the darkness and reclaim our world from those who would seek to control.
As a retired veteran, I've faced my fair share of horrors on the battlefield, but nothing could have prepared me for the nightmares lurking beneath the surface of Montauk Point. It's a tale that still haunts my dreams, a story of darkness and despair that I can't seem to escape. Deep beneath Camp Hero, where the waves crash against the rocky shore above, lies an underground labyrinth of secrets and shadows. The base stretches down 8, 9 levels into the bowels of the earth, where unspeakable experiments are conducted in the name of science and power. I remember the first time I set foot in those dark corridors, the air heavy with the stench of fear and desperation. We were told we were there to protect our country, to defend against unseen threats from beyond the stars. But as I delved deeper into the heart of Montauk, I realized that the true enemy was much closer to home. Chiakars from Alpha Draco, Greys from Rigel Orion, agents of the Thule Society. They all lurked in the shadows, their presence a constant reminder of the darkness that lay beneath the surface. But it wasn't just aliens we had to contend with. There were humans too, twisted by their lust for power and control. The experiments they conducted were beyond comprehension. Mind control, time manipulation, genetic engineering. I saw things that still haunt me to this day, things that no man should ever have to witness. But the worst part was knowing that it was all done in the name of progress, that the atrocities committed in those underground chambers were justified by the pursuit of knowledge. I tried to leave it all behind when I retired from the military, to put the nightmares behind me and move on with my life. But Montauk has a way of drawing you back in, of reminding you that the darkness is never far away. Even now, as I sit in my quiet little house on the outskirts of town, I can feel its pull, like a siren's song luring me back to the depths of despair. The memories of what I saw down there still haunt me, and I fear that they always will. But I'm not alone in my struggle. There are others like me, veterans who've seen the horrors of Montauk and lived to tell the tale. Together, we fight to expose the truth, to shine a light on the darkness that threatens to consume us all. And perhaps, one day, We'll find a way to put an end to the horrors of Montauk once and for all. But until that day comes, we'll keep fighting, keep shining a light into the darkness, no matter the cost.
I've faced horrors on distant shores, but none could compare to the bone-chilling encounter I had near the Miamisburg Mound. It was a dreary autumn afternoon, the kind that leaves you feeling unsettled. Despite the ominous clouds looming overhead, I felt drawn to the ancient burial site, as if some unseen force beckoned me into the depths of the woods. As I ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew thick with an otherworldly chill. Branches twisted and gnarled like skeletal fingers reaching out to ensnare me in their grasp. I tried to shake off the sense of foreboding that gripped me, but it only intensified as I stumbled upon something buried beneath a mound of fallen leaves. I knelt down to investigate, my heart pounding in my chest. What I found sent a shiver down my spine, the remains of a giant skeleton half hidden beneath the earth. The bones seemed to glow with an eerie light, casting long shadows that danced in the fading daylight. Fear washed over me like a tidal wave as I realized the enormity of what lay before me. Who, or what, had once walked these woods, leaving nothing but bones as a testament to its existence? With trembling hands, I began to clear away the debris, uncovering more of the skeleton's massive form with each passing moment. But as I worked, a sense of dread settled over me like a suffocating fog. It was as if the forest itself was warning me to turn back, to leave this cursed place and never return. But I couldn't tear myself away. Compelled by some unseen force, I continued to unearth the giant's remains until they lay fully exposed to the dying light of day. That's when I heard it. A low, guttural moan echoing through the trees, sending a chill down my spine. I froze, my blood running cold as the sound grew louder, closer. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized the truth. I was not alone in these woods. Something ancient and malevolent lurked in the shadows, drawn by the disturbance I had caused. I scrambled to my feet, the weight of terror pressing down on me like a leaden cloak. I fled from the burial site, the echoes of the giant's moans haunting my every step. As I emerged from the forest, gasping for breath, I knew that I had uncovered something far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. The giant's bones may have been laid to rest, but the darkness that surrounded them would linger on, a reminder of the horrors that lurked within the heart of the woods.
The old Marine veteran, Grandpa John, sat in his favorite armchair by the crackling fireplace, his weathered face illuminated by the flickering flames. Beside him, his wide-eyed grandson, Timmy, listened intently, eager for another one of Grandpa's thrilling tales. "Grandpa, tell me about the Solomon Island giants again," Timmy pleaded, his voice barely a whisper in the hushed room. Grandpa John nodded, a solemn expression crossing his features as he began his story. "All right, Timmy, but I warn you, this tale ain't for the faint of heart," he said, his voice low and gravely. As the fire cast eerie shadows across the room, Grandpa John recounted the legends of the giants of Guadalcanal. He spoke of massive hominoids, towering over the dense jungles, their presence shrouded in mystery and fear. "These giants, Timmy, they ain't like anything you've ever seen. They're said to be as tall as the tallest trees, with eyes that glow in the darkness and voices that echo through the night," Grandpa John whispered, his words sending a chill down Timmy's spine. Timmy listened in rapt attention as Grandpa John described how the islanders believed the giants lived in vast cave systems beneath the mountains, their underground cities hidden from the prying eyes of outsiders. "But why are they scary, Grandpa? Are they mean?" Timmy asked, his voice trembling with fear. Grandpa John's eyes darkened as he continued his tale. "Some say the giants are protectors of the land, watching over it with silent vigilance. But others believe there's something more sinister." He leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper now. "There are stories, Timmy, stories of people who ventured too close to the giants' domain and were never seen again. Some say the giants took them, dragged them down into the depths of the earth, never to be seen again. Timmy's breath caught in his throat as he imagined the horrors lurking in the shadows of the Solomon Islands. But even as fear gnawed at his heart, he couldn't tear his eyes away from his grandfather's haunted expression. "Are the giants real, Grandpa?" Timmy asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Grandpa John's gaze held a haunted glimmer as he answered, "Some say they are just legends, tales spun from the imagination of the islanders. But others believe they walk among us still, lurking in the darkness, waiting for their next victim." As the fire burned low and the shadows danced around them, Timmy couldn't shake the feeling that the giants of Guadalcanal were more than just stories. They were a warning, a reminder of the dangers that lurked in the unknown depths of the world. And as he nestled closer to his grandfather, seeking comfort in the warmth of his presence, he couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden in the darkness, waiting to be revealed.
In the summer of 1922, in a small barn outside of Munich, the occult Thule and Vril Gesellschafts set about to create an interdimensional flight machine based upon channeled information received by their two mediums, Maria Orsic and Sigrun, from Aldebaran in the Taurus constellation, 68 light-years away. Maria, the Thule medium, had been receiving information from what she believed was Aryan aliens living on Aldebaran since 1919, but could not translate their language and strange mental images. Sigrun, the Vril medium, was brought in to help translate these communications and images, which was in the form of a strange circular flight machine with an even stranger cylindrical power plant beyond all conventional science of the time. Thule and Vril secretly called this craft the Jenseitsflugmaschine, or otherworld flight machine. The Gesellschafts then used their members in the German business community to raise funds for the construction of this machine under the code letters JFM. By 1922, parts for the machine began arriving independently from various industrial sources, paid in full by the Thule and Vril Gesellschafts. The machine itself was a disc craft with 3 inner disc plates inside and a cylindrical power unit running through the center of all 3 plates. The central disc plate measured 8 meters in diameter. Above it, in parallel, was a disc plate of 6.5 meters diameter, and below an equally parallel disc of 7 meters diameter. Through the center of all 3 disc plates ran a 2.4 meter high cylindrical power unit that fit into a running 1.8 meter hole that culminated at the bottom of the disc body with a conical point, to which was attached an enormous pendulum to stabilize the equipment once the unit was operating. Once activated, the cylindrical power unit, which consisted of an electric starter motor and high-power generator, started the upper and lower disc plates spinning in opposite directions to create a rotating electromagnetic field that was increasingly intensified. The intensity and frequency of the field oscillations increased in theory up to a point where an interdimensional oscillation occurred, opening a gateway or portal to another world. The occultists called this a white hole that theoretically would connect the JFM to Aldebaran's corresponding frequency oscillations and navigate the machine through to that world. The sole purpose of this machine was to reach Aldebaran and make contact directly with those that had supplied the information through channeling. 2 years of research was done with the JFM until 1924, when the machine was hurriedly dismantled and moved to Augsburg, where it eventually was placed in storage at Messerschmitt's facility. With the end of the war, no trace was ever found of the JFM. Perhaps it was destroyed in an Allied bombing raid, or simply taken apart by the Germans themselves out of fear. No one is certain, but whether or not the JFM actually worked, one thing is certain: the Thule and Vril Gesellschafts, with the help of W.O. Schumann of the Technical University of Munich, developed some form of levitator unit from it that would be utilized in further German disc aircraft with the RFZ, Rundflugzeug. Types starting in 1934 and ending with the fantastic Vril and Haunebu discs of 1939-1945 of the Vril Gesellschaft Society, from its inception to the final days of WUW2, when this occult group seemed to vanish right off the face of the earth. The name Vril is the shortening of Vril, which means like God. Officially, Vril was the All-German Society for Metaphysics, which merged with the Thule Gesellschaft and the obscure DHVSS, Men of the Black Stone, in the year 1919. Each occult group had its own distinct beliefs and origins. The DHVSS, 1912, worshipped the German mountain goddess Isis and the Schwarze Stein, Blackstone. The Thule Gesellschaft, 1917, believed in the hollow earth theory and derived its name from Ultima Thule, the ancient capital of Hyperborea at the top of the world. Vril worshipped the black sun, the invisible inner light of the Godhead, which supposedly gave or generated incredible power and communicated with Aryan aliens through psychic channeling. But unlike the other two groups, the Vril Gesellschaft were an inner circle of women who were also fighting against their times and culture. They were psychic mediums that wore a horsetail hairstyle. They believed that their long hair acted as cosmic antennae to receive alien communication from beyond. So this is where the Vril disc story begins. Despite their distrust of men, the women of Vril joined with the Thule Gesellschaft and DHVSS in order to construct an interdimensional channeled flight disc known as the Jenseitsflugmaschine, JFM. By 1922, the odd disc-shaped machine was constructed in Munich and tested for 2 years. It is not known if any success with channeled flight was ever achieved, but a certain W.O. Schumann of the Technical University of Munich invented a levitator from the channeled JFM information provided by the mediums Maria Orsic and Sigrun. By 1924, the JFM project was scrapped, but work continued on perfecting the levitator unit known by then as the Schumann SM Levitator. With the Nazi Party in power in 1933, which itself originated from the Thule Gesellschaft, the occultists now received official backing for their continued development of the flight discs. Thule and Vril started with the RFZ, Rundflugzeug, or Round Aircraft series, from 1934-41. As war had started in 1939, the RFZ-5 became the Haunebüllem-1, and by 1941, the RFZ-7 had become the Vril-1 Jager Hunter. The reason for the changes were due to Thule's revolutionary Treibwerk, thrustwork engine, that used rotating electromagnetic gravitic fields to affect gravity. Vril had by 1941 perfected the SM Levitator as well, and thus two new series entered limited construction, but with slightly different goals. Thule wanted to develop both a production combat craft and a functional Raumschiff spaceship. Vril, by comparison, only wanted to develop Raumschiffen to reach Aldebaran in the Taurus constellation 68 light-years from Earth. As Hitler had forbid secret societies in Germany from 1941 forward, both Thule and Vril were documented under the SS Technical Branch Unit EI-4, Entwicklungsstelle 4, tasked with developing alternative energies. This unit had already helped with the RFZ series, but now officially Thule and Vril did not exist. Vril became known secretly as the Chain. Vril members wore a doppelsignet disc that represented the two mediums Maria Orsic and Sigrun. The first purely Vril disc, the Vril-1 Jaeger Hunter, was constructed in 1941 and first flew in 1942. It was 11.5 meters in diameter, had a single pilot, and could achieve 2,900 km/h, 12,000 km/h. It flew with a metal dome at first, but subsequent test versions had a heavily reinforced glass dome and could seat 2 crew. Flight endurance was 5.5 HRs. It was planned to arm this craft with 2 Mk-1908 cannon plus 2 MG-17 machine guns. 17 of these craft were constructed and tested between 1942 to 44 with 84 test flights. The Vril-2 Zerstörer destroyer was a highly advanced oval-shaped disk that was much too complex for the time period. Thus, it was projected for 1945-46, so no construction was started. The Vril 3 and 4 have been photographed, but no surviving information is found on them. Vrils 5 and 6 likewise do not show up and may have only been projects. The Vril 7 and 8, however, were constructed. The Vril 7 Ghost, was 45 meters in diameter and crewed by 14 men. It was built in 1944 and tested at Arado Brandenburg using Vril's own Triebwerk. Vril's medium Sigrun made frequent trips to the facility to oversee construction and testing. In 1944, Arado engineers approached her with a request. They wanted to know if the Vril Triebwerk could be adapted to one of their projects, the Arado E-555 strategic bomber. They were abruptly told no and returned to their designs, which resulted in 11 different versions of the bomber. Sigrun was actually insulted because the entire purpose of the Vril discs was aimed at spaceflight. No conventional bomber could withstand the heat of the velocity achieved by these machines, which were constructed of hulls specially made of an advanced metal called Victalin. In some sources, Victalin or Victalon. The Vril 1 had a single hull of this type. The Vril 7, too. The large Honbo 3 had 3. With the SS supervising all aspects of the disc programs, every model had to have at least theoretical provision for armament. In the Vril 7 Geist, it would have been 4 Mk1 or 8 cannon. The Vril 8 Odin was the last official Vril disc that was flight tested in the spring of 1945 during the collapse. This disc had an automatic Oberon upward-firing gun installation on top of the control center. The Vril Gesellschaft had started evacuating to Base 211 in Neuschwabenland, Antarctica, in March 1945, so it would seem like the Vril 8 Odin was the last Vril disc actually tested. However, some weeks after Germany surrendered, both Haunebu and Vril craft were spotted in the skies over occupied Germany. Although the Vril 9 Abjager Universal Hunter was shown as a design on paper, a craft identical to it was photographed post-war. Vril's final plan was the construction of a large 139-meter-long cylindrical Raumschiff, known by the SS EIV unit as the Andromeda Gerat. Work on this flying cigar was to commence in 1945 at a huge, sheltered above-ground Zeppelin-like hangar. Once completed, it could internally accommodate one large Haunebu 4 and 2 Vril 2 craft, making the journey to Aldebaran, the ultimate dream of the Vril Gesellschaft. Although these mysterious craft seem to come from the realm of science fiction, it is interesting to note that once Germany was occupied and the military intel teams swept through the defeated nation, all documentation and evidence of the Vril Gesellschaft was destroyed by the Allies. If the occult society and craft never existed and did not represent any threat to the Allies, then why has all trace of their existence been forcefully carried out by the victors? Not all good comes from above. For Vril, it came from beyond, 68 light years from Earth. And it was this obsession that led to all of the occult German disc programs. One can only wonder if any of them truly made it to their ultimate destination.
Nazis. In America, America builds its own spaceships. The Americans were confronted with technology. They couldn't counter, so signed a non-interference treaty to get the technology to fight back. The Germans gave the USA their anti-grav technology after the war when they came to America. Al says that when Apollo 11 landed on the moon, Americans already there greeted them because they had anti-grav technology in the 70s buyback engineering UFOs. There must have been two different factions developing space technology, as the Bolsheviks were in charge of the space shuttles at Houston, which couldn't get off the ground for being hit by cosmospheres according to Fire from the Sky articles. But the Nazis, who came to USA after the war, started work at Area 51 on anti-grav discs. Originally, there were 3 Nazi scientists in Germany developing flying discs. The specialists were Schriever, Habermohl, and Miethe. It is believed after the war, Habermohl fell into the hands of the Russians. Miethe developed at a later date similar flying discs at A.V. Rowe and Company for USA, according to Robert Jung, who wrote this in 1956 in the book Brighter Than 1,000 Suns. Werner von Braun went to USA to start the rocket program. His professor Hermann Oberth was captured by Russia, and the rest of the Nazi anti-grav scientists disappeared down to Antarctica, where they had prepared a place to live for some time previously, or possibly to the moon. Linda Hunt of CNN told of 1,600 Nazi scientists, largely escaping the Nuremberg trials, came to U.S. under Operation Paperclip to develop the U.S. space program. Von Braun became the director of the Marshall Space Flight Center. His brother joined him to work there. V-2 flight test director Kurt DeBoos was a director of Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Arthur Rudolph was project director of NASA's Saturn V rocket program that took U.S. to the moon. Tim Swartz also writes that Vladimir Terziski, a Bulgarian-born engineer and physicist who graduated from Tokai University in Tokyo in 1980, states that the Bavarian Illuminati has been involved in top-secret space research and development since the turn of the century, and that the Nazis, the American Eastern establishment, and the KGB have been involved as well. The Nazis, working at the highest levels of internationalism, were and are intricately involved in the situation. Terziski says there are videos of German-Japanese saucer landings on the moon and Mars in 1944 to 46 Marconi groups landing on Mars in 1956. Video footage of Nazi interplanetary dreadnoughts. A secret Soviet-American saucer landing on Mars in the 1960s. The Germans allegedly landed on the moon as early as 1942, using their larger exo-atmospheric turbine-powered rocket-flying saucers. On their first day of landing, the Germans started tunneling under the surface. By the end of the war, there was a base on the moon. After 1944, the free-energy tachyon drive craft were used to haul people, material, and the first robots to the construction site on the moon. When Russians and Americans secretly landed together on the moon in the early 1950s with their own saucers, they spent the first night there as guests of the Nazis in their underground base. In the 1960s, a massive Russian-American base had been built on the moon, now occupied by 40,000 people. Tim Swartz writes that according to an underground German documentary from the Thule Society, a German flight to Mars departed in April 1945. The crew, consisting of hundreds of volunteers from Germany and Japan, knew that this was a one-way trip. The 74-meter naval warfare dreadnought, which was saucer-shaped and had larger tachyon drives, had most of its systems operated manually, and it took almost 8 months to accomplish the journey. The initial thrust was likely achieved using the strong gravitational field of the Earth. The craft coasted in an elliptical orbit to Mars, with its main drives turned off. After a disastrous, almost crash landing, the saucer came to a stop, irreparably damaging its engines but saving the crew. The smaller gravitational field of Mars and thinner atmosphere generated less power for the tachyon drives, hindering air braking. The radio message of their arrival was sent to their base on the moon and the German Underground Space Control Center in Antarctica. Later trips to Mars by joint Soviet-US craft reached Mars in only 2. 3 days because their drives were operational throughout the entire flight, accelerating in the first half and decelerating in the second. Terziski claimed in 1993 that any independent scientist who discovers electromagnetic, free-energy anti-gravity propulsion is soon bought off, blacklisted, or killed by the Bavarian Illuminati. The Bavarians, as Tim writes, were intent on establishing the New World Order. The defeat of Nazi Germany forced the secret group, Bavarian Illuminati, to flee to their secret base already established in Antarctica. By 1946, the secret Antarctic base, New Berlin or Neuschwabenland, was beginning to make its presence known through incursions into the airspaces of the US and the Soviet Union. Since then, there have been rumors about Germans counterfeiting US currency, and the Nazis, from their Antarctic base, are reported to be the real power behind the New World Order, with the help of their allies in the CIA and NSA. The Nazis began to slowly infiltrate Argentina, Chile, and then moved into the US. In the late 1940s and 1950s, they placed their agents and started rebuilding their European industrial base. Nelson Rockefeller illegally brought 3,000 high-ranking Nazi Party officials from Germany into the US. As of today, there are reportedly 1.6 million Nazis in the US, many holding positions in high-level government and major corporations. These Nazis are allegedly attempting to establish a Fourth Reich with the eventual goal of eliminating all non-Aryan people, dissidents, and undesirables. The Bavarian Illuminati's critical agents, Earl Warren and LBJ, with assistance from J. Edgar Hoover, participated in the JFK cover-up. Tim reveals the deception by writing, "One of the first actions the group, Bavarian Illuminati, took to protect its own operation was one of Reinhard Gehlen's specialties in World War II Nazi intelligence, diverting attention to the Red Menace." Additionally, we know from the Fortress Australia article that the Pine Gap base was built by an American named John Friedrich, who worked for the Nazi that created the CIA. This is linked to Antarctica and is said to contain information from their supercomputers on everyone on the planet. The underground Nazi invasion of the United States, a 58-part series by Agent Wolverine, aka Branton, asserts that the Rockefellers are long-standing members of Bavarian German secret societies with the aim of establishing a one-world government. Nelson Rockefeller is said to have brought 3,000 crack Nazi SS agents into the U.S. under Project Paperclip, providing them with new identities and positions within their corporate empire or allied corporate structures. It's alleged that the UN, created by Bavarian secret orders, is ultimately controlled from Bavaria, with the Rockefellers owning the UN land. The series suggests that UN police action will be taken against America to confiscate all personal weapons, outlaw non-sanctioned religious activity, and suppress freedom of speech using technology. Allegedly, there are already 1 million UN troops of German, Russian, and Chinese origin prepared to disarm the U.S. population. The German-born Skull and Bones Society, including members like Prescott Bush, George Bush Sr., and G.W. Bush, is claimed to have assisted in financing the Third Reich in collaboration with the Rockefellers. According to a former employee of the CIA's Wackenhut security organization, Michael Riconoscuito, fascist infiltrators have purportedly gained control of underground facilities where research into mind control, biogenetic studies, and advanced aerospace research are conducted, particularly at Area 51 in Nevada. Nazis took key positions in USA after the war. Continuing with a summary, what One Who Knows writes, and what he covers the Nazi anti-grav saucer development. In Project Paperclip, many Nazi scientists were brought to USA. Werner von Braun and 115 other German scientists were brought to Texas. Von Braun was working on the Nazi missile program. He'd worked for Walter Dorberger, who was convicted as a war criminal, and then he was set to work as director of R&D on the U.S. space program. He developed a nuclear-powered transatmospheric vehicle. These operated out of Area 51 in Nevada and other places. General Reinhard Gehlen, Hitler's chief intelligence officer against the Soviet Union, struck a deal with the Americans after the war. Gehlen, von Braun, and Dornberger continued to have considerable influence on U.S. politics. Info was received from captured German scientists in Russia about their weaponry, so 350 German scientists and technicians were brought to U.S.
Control it.